Good morning, everybody. Welcome to First Center for Spiritual Living in New York City. I'm glad you're with us today. Today's talk is about faith and belief and how faith can surpass mere belief. Many years ago, an author that I was quite fond of, William Edelin, wrote an essay entitled, "Genuine Faith Surpasses Mere Belief." In it, he starts out by saying, those who live with the belief that the earth was flat had the ground cut out from underneath them by Columbus and other explorers of the New World. Those who lived by belief that the earth was the center of the universe, as was believed in biblical times, had the ground cut right out from underneath them by Galileo and Copernicus. Those who lived by the belief that Homo sapiens were actually literally created in a Garden of Eden had the ground cut out from under them by Darwin. A barrier to religious growth is the inability to differentiate between belief and faith. A genuine and authentic faith is always going to be beyond belief. It's the realization that our life is related to the ultimate. When we experience that dimension of existence, when we're coming from that place, we will have moved beyond belief to a different place. It's a place of freedom, and it's a place of faith. Faith would suggest you have complete trust or confidence that there is something, someone, an essence, a presence. Belief is a little bit different. It's something that one accepts as true or real, a firmly held opinion, perhaps, or a conviction. The word believe in Greek is pistos, which means confidence or trust. In our teaching, in our textbook, belief is defined as a conviction or a feeling of the truth of a proposition or a condition. Belief may go no further than intellect, while faith embodies something much more. It embodies a great trust and confidence. Belief admits, to all degrees, from the slightest suspicion to the fullest assurance. Another author, Thomas Reid, wrote, and he was a Scottish philosopher, if you want to get into the deeper meanings of belief, you can drown into philosophical depths of the word and word play. That reminds me when I was a kid of this game that we used to play with fists and scissors and rocks, a childhood game of rock, paper, and scissors. I'm sure many of you have played it. You can see the different images. There's the rock, there's the paper, and there's scissors. And there's always going to be one of two possible outcomes. There's going to be a draw, or there's going to be a win for one player and a loss for the other. A player who declares to play rock will beat another player who has chosen scissors, because the rock can smash the scissors, right? Or sometimes it can blunt the scissors. But will lose to the one who has played paper. Paper covers the rock, okay? A play of paper will lose to a play of scissors. Scissors cuts paper. If both players choose the same shape, the game is tied and is usually immediately replayed to break the tie. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said in the writing What I Believe, as a statement of the principles we practice, and he said, do you accept each line with the conviction of faith? This may be why in the reading and commitment to these statements are part of our licensing of practitioners and ministers. So what I'm going to read to you are some of the things that ministers and practitioners, they study and they agree to, and they're quizzed on, they pass exams over. But I'm going to paraphrase it to make it easier for everybody to understand. The following ideas were made in his work. He said, regarding the one spirit that animates everything, near and far, he said, I believe in it. I believe in this spirit. It's living and it's all-powerful. It animates everything, from the nearest rock to the furthest galaxy and to the nearest person to you. I believe in this spirit, which is living in all things, a presence. One, I studied for years the idea of oneness. And I can't give you years of study, but I could suggest you could contemplate that word for a long time. One indestructible, absolute, self-existent thing. That thing's everywhere present. It's a presence that's never an absence. This one, Holmes wrote, manifests itself in and through everything, everyone, every place. There's not a spot where it is not. It's a presence that's never an absence. The universe can be thought of as its body. All that you can possibly imagine and see and experience is the logical and necessary outcome of its infinite self-knowingness. Again, there's not a spot where we used to say God is not. Now we'll say spirit. Everything is spirit. He went on to say, I believe in the incarnation of spirit in everything and all beings, and every person is an incarnation of this one spirit. In terms of the concept of personal immortality, Holmes went on to say, I believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, which is ever and ever expanding. We don't know all things about it, but this is where we come from. We believe in the individual soul forever and ever expanding. Holmes spoke of heaven on earth by saying, I believe that heaven, or the sense of heaven, is within us, and that I experience it to the degree that I become conscious of it. Now, there's many people I've known in my life, or maybe not many, I'll say a few, who actually live this way. And you can't touch them because they got it. They live, move, and they have their being in a sense of awareness of God. They know that God is all that there is, and they practice this. They know this, and you can learn a lot from people. Holmes said, find me one person who's so redeemed from the bondage of self, and I will find the Redeemer of my soul, because that person is communing with life and knows that every encounter is a holy encounter. On the subject of personal freedom, he said, I believe that the ultimate goal of life is to be a complete emancipation and freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained ultimately by everybody. All of life is moving forward, with or without our agreement. That's one thing for sure. All the great poets, philosophers, and sages would be pointing you to that ultimate fact. On the subject of unity of life, I believe in the idea of oneness, the unity of everything, and the highest sense of spirit and the innermost sense is the same. One presence, one energy. I remember being a young man and I was working in a facility and I dropped a pen behind a file cabinet and there was a guy working there, it's an older guy. I said, oh, it's just a pen, He said, well, Greg, that pen is as alive as you are. And I looked at him like he'd lost his mind. But the point he was trying to get me to see is there's a force and there's an energy in everything. I mean, everything. And we live, we move, we have our being in this thing, which Holmes called spirit, this energy. Our connection to it is, it can't be stopped, it can't be separated. There's nothing you can do. You can turn from it. In the old story of the prodigal child, you can live in darkness, you can wander off into the wild country, and you can do a lot of things because you have the ability to choose and you have free will. But eventually, you'll hit the wall, and when you do, you will turn within, and the proverbial story, the father comes rushing to the child, and you always will be in a place of restoration because you really cannot be lost in the process. You can only ever wake to it. There's a line from Louise Hay's book, was a song from Hal Joseph years ago, and the lyric was, remembering and forgetting, it's the game that we play. So when we're in a place of remembrance, it's like we're plugging into Source. We've always been a part of Source, but we forget. And on the subject of personal revelation, Ernest Holmes wrote, further, I believe in the direct revelation of truth. And I trust in our intuitive and spiritual nature. Holmes said, or suggested rather, that all of us have an internal guidance system. Emerson wrote that the universe is always wooing us. Okay, so there's a part of you that knows when you're messing up. And that's a good thing because Nobody needs to punish anybody. Certainly there's no God punishing you. When we're messing up, we know we're messing up, and so we make the adjustments, hopefully. If you don't pay attention to the resistance and the pain in your life, then most likely you're going to keep making those mistakes, and they will probably get worse until you finally get the lessons that they're in your life for that reason. And that's not a God that's punishing you. It's just the opposite. Of Emerson, it was said he said the dice of God are always loaded, meaning you're given the freedom to keep doing whatever you want to do, and you keep learning the lessons. And I used to think when I was a younger man, I'd rather get a little nudge than get what we used to joke about being the cosmic 2x4. I'd rather learn by getting a little bit of an ouch rather than a great, big lesson. As we learn to live with the teaching, we're more in tune with life, and we get the lessons faster. There's a quickening that happens. Our growth becomes exponential. Let's talk a minute about the law of mind, which is a universal law. Some of you know it as the law of cause and effect. Other people know of it as the law of correspondence. In all our classes and lessons, it comes back to the idea there is this one spirit, universal spirit, which some of you still call God, some call source. This source operates through a universal thing called mind here. You could call it different things. It operates as a law of the universe. We know we are surrounded by it, this creative mind, and we know that it receives our thoughts and always is acting upon it. If you remember from the movie the book The Secret years ago, there was the big, handsome genie in the sky whose one line in the whole movie was, "Your wish is my command. Your wish is my command." So the universe is always accepting you, your own estimation of yourself, and your own inner dialogue gets played out in your life, day after day after day. And if you like the play that's in your life, it's wonderful. But for a lot of us, there's a lot of pain and suffering, and it would suggest we could make adjustments if we're smart. I had a wise guy teacher in the early 90s who put on the marquee of the center in Fort Lauderdale, "Don't die dumb." And everybody thought, well, what kind of minister could ever say that and put that on a marquee? And hell, we've been talking about it for 20, 30 years later. The idea is, the universe is filled with intelligence, and you're one with intelligence. So we can get these lessons sooner than later, unless we have tremendous resistance within ourselves. And, and then not to worry, you'll learn the lessons at the appropriate time. So as you engage in this teaching, and most people find us not by accident, but more by grace, I would think, it means it's time for you to transform and to move forward. And you can do so exponentially. This teaching will bring forth great demonstrations and will move you forward much quicker than you would ordinarily. On the subject of personal power, Ernest Holmes says we have power. Amazing power at our disposal once we learn how to access it and to use it. We believe that we can impact and change conditions through the power of our consciousness, or what's called mind. We can change conditions. We can have improved relationships, more abundance, more wholeness, more health, as our consciousness is changed. We believe in the goodness and the givingness of life to everyone. We can think of it as an eternal giving force, always unfolding in a bigger and more dynamic way, ways for the good of all, the eternal giver, the eternal givingness of life. On the subject of self-determination, Holmes wrote, "I believe in my own soul, my own spirit, and my own destiny. For I understand that my life is the life of God, life of Source. I'm one with Source. And I know I'm standing on holy ground, as is everyone, if they only knew that." From our glossary in the textbook, there's a definition of faith, which I thought I would share today. Faith is the substance of everything hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. From the ancient Hebrews, faith is a mental attitude, so inwardly embodied that the mind can no longer deny it. There is nothing in my mind denying the faith that I have. Faith is complete when it is both a conscious thing and a subjective acceptance. It's not, in other words, I'm knowing that I'm connected, and inwardly I'm accepting it. I'm knowing that I'm supplied consciously, and inwardly I'm accepting that I am supplied completely. I know that I'm one intellectually, and inwardly I accept that I'm one with the one. Faith may be consciously generated. You can work to develop faith. I remember reading in all my sales books when I was a kid. Benjamin Franklin wrote the first self-help book. And in it, there was a 13 or 16-week process where he said, assume a virtue if you have it not. So keep working on it and watch how things will change. You can develop, you can practice it, you can change. That's our work. We tackled things that happen day by day. It's how you approach life. A religious scientist is totally committed to seeing the good in things. So if you're a practitioner, if you're a New Thought student, if you're approaching life from a mystical place, if you're about transformation, then your commitment is to seeing the good. I used to remember Edwina Gaines, who many of you know is a prosperity teacher, and she would use the words God and good interchangeably. She would say, I see the God, the good, the good, the God. If you are the person who is living your life that way, you will move through everything in ways that other people don't. In spiritual terminology, faith means a belief in the presence of an invisible principle and law which directly and specifically responds to each of us. Your faith has made you whole, wrote Mark in the New Testament. It was my hope today to make a couple points, but the main point would be that your affirmations and your beliefs can deepen. They can go much deeper into a faith. And when they really are taken into your being totally, fully embodied into your entire being, you're going to start to have things happen. Because you're engaging a power that has no end. We talk a lot. I play with new ways of presenting the teaching, as you know. And this is the 2020s, so we're dealing with superheroes and superpowers. Well, if there is a superpower, the best has got to be faith. But before I want to talk about that, when I was in my 20s, I was meditating long and hard on 3 words that helped me, which I think you must know, but I'll bring them up anyway. They help me change, they help me grow, they help me develop. So I could have more faith, right? They are omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. Omniscience means having infinite awareness, understanding, and insight. So you're one with this, and it has infinite awareness, understanding, and insight. You can tap into that, and that infinite understanding and awareness is yours. It's not separate from you, it's a part of you. The state of being constantly encountered would we're going to go to omnipresence. Omnipresence, the state of being constantly encountered. The omnipresence, we can use it in terms of the internet. The omnipresence of the internet in society today, it's everywhere, right? Almost. But in spirituality, the presence, the energy present and available, it's everywhere and all the time. This omnipresence. If you think of omnipresence, if you meditate upon it, you'll come to the conclusion. If you can think the furthest place your mind can go towards space, it's there. If you can think of your own body and every cell within your body and every subcell and every atom, it's there. There's not a spot where God is not. So we think in terms of omnipresence, we think in terms of omniscience, and then the last one was omnipotence. And that would suggest, from the teachings of old, that all power exists in this thing too. So we have access to all intelligence, we have access to all power, we have access to all knowing. There's so much power available to you, it's unbelievable. There's power Holmes wrote years ago, for good in the universe greater than you, of which you're definitely a part. So here's the thing. You can access power. However you channel it, once you get yourself in alignment with it, the places you can go. If your thing is real estate, you're going to be a superstar. If your thing is ministry, you're going to be amazing. If your thing is interior design, if your thing is anything, the whole world is waiting for you. The thing is, you can't manipulate it. What you have to learn how to do is align yourself with it and learn how it works. The universe responds to our every thought, but people largely don't get this. For the most part, they're in a story. Remember the song from John Lennon years ago, I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round, Well, we have a lot of stories that are going on, and the stories, it's just like repeating. I might have a belief about everybody in this room, and so I can't see them clearly anymore because I have all these stories that are going on. And you have it about the people you love, you have it about the people who have hurt you, you have it about the people who have betrayed you and left you and lied to you, and you have your beliefs about politics, you have your beliefs about everything. And all of that stuff is a bunch of stuff. And it's a prejudice of forms. There's lots of prejudices that people live with. And how do you get rid of all that so you can be free in a new moment? It's an exciting challenge, but that is the work. Ram Dass wrote an important work when I was younger. It was called Be Here Now. What would it be like if you could truly be here now, where you would know that everything is possible? So the universe responds to every thought we think. That was taught by Louise. She would say we're each 100% responsible for all our thoughts. And by that, she never suggested that there's a blame game going here. Responsibility in the sense, if I keep thinking a certain way, which is in part and parcel because of what my parents and family taught me, which I've accepted, that's going to keep being reflected in my world. What my parents gave me were great gifts, by and large. They also gave me some things that really have become things for me to work on. And that's okay. Everybody has done the best they could with the information, the understanding, and the awareness that they have. So here we are now, we're over 20, most of us, right? Over 30, 40, and nobody's going to save you. So if you've come to this center thinking there's a savior that's going to save you, this is not the right place for you. This is the place where you're going to come to grips with the idea that the person that's going to save you is you. You're going to look in the mirror, you're going to look at that person in the mirror, and you're going to love that person, and you're going to accept that person, and you're going to say, look, you've done the best you could with what you've had. And, from Louise, self-acceptance and self-approval in the now are the keys to all positive changes. Ernest Holmes wrote in our text, someone has said the entire world is suffering from one big fear, the fear that the universe will not answer our call or our prayers. And he said, let's look at the fears which possess us and see if any of this is true. The fear of lack is nothing more than the belief that this presence or this spirit does not or will not supply us with whatever we need. The fear of death is the belief that the promise of eternal life may not be true. The fear of loss of health or loss of friends and boyfriends and loved ones, the fear of all this kind of loss of relationships, loss of property during times of change, all arise from the belief that spirit is not all that we claim it to be. We claim it is life, and it is life. It's omniscience, it's omnipotence, it's omnipresence. You're one with this intelligence, this power, this presence, and if you could wake up to that, you would know that you are supplied. All that the universe has is yours. All the power, all the wisdom. So someone's closed a couple doors in your life and you feel defeated. I mean, really, what a pity, because if you have this teaching, you're simply going to know a door has been closed. And that doesn't mean anything other than a door is closed. And but you live as pure potential. So open some other doors and begin to trust a little bit more, right? So what is fear? Nothing more, nothing less than the negative use of faith. It's faith that's misplaced. Faith that's misplaced is fear. It's a belief in two powers instead of one. A belief that there can be a power opposed to God, whose influence and ability may bring us some kind of evil. In other words, to correct all the would-be evils of the world, humanity only needs to rise in consciousness. As we grow in faith in absolute positive life, and have positive expectancy, everything changes. Now you might say, but Greg, it's going to take forever for the world to do that. You may be right, it may take a long time. But it doesn't need to take forever for you to live that way. So this is the answer. Our superpower really is faith, rightly placed, a faith that understands the beauty, the perfection, the integrity of the universe, the givingness of life and knowing that it's available to you, the givingness of spirit, our source, and the absolute unity of life everywhere. In our study and our practice, we observe how it works, what it does, and we are practitioners of it, those of us who are engaged. We practice, and as we do, things change for us. And as we're lifted up, other people notice we're lifted up, and then we have an opportunity to lift up, the world around us. As we gain understanding, our faith increases. I saw this happen 40 years ago. I was in a 12-step group, and I didn't have a lot of faith in a lot of things. But I saw people getting better, people that I thought never could. And I thought, my goodness, I came to believe that there was something working, right? And helping, and people were getting better. And I witnessed it firsthand in the early healing groups of Louise, who got her start here in our center. I saw people healing that really weren't supposed to heal. I saw transformation. And I started doing the work myself. Now, borrowing today from ancient Christian writings, if you have this kind of faith as a grain of a mustard seed, for example, you shall say to this mountain, be moved from here, and it will go there. It will move, and nothing will be impossible to you. If you have the kind of faith and you connect with the power that you possess, you're going to live your life in a very great way. You were here to live your life, so you could fully express the power and the love within you. If you're in alignment with Spirit, or some would say, when you're centered in the mind that was in Christ Jesus, his writings were clear, and whatever great things he might have done, you can do more. He never said that he was the answer. He said, these things and greater you can do. The power and the potential exist in everybody. The universe moves forward, and the old forms are quickly replaced, and life is going by quickly. Human knowledge, I'm told, is doubled every second or third day, perhaps even faster. Whoever cooperates with life, with divine mind, with source, and who is open and receptive to spirit will always be supplied and supported. Suffering, by the way, is not of spirit. Suffering is not God ordained. When we are suffering, it's because we're in some form of resistance to change. We forget to realize this amazing, amazing thing. This principle of life responding to you, it's not bound by anything. It's not bound by anything that's ever happened to you before. You can always be in a new moment if you're willing to drop the stories, one and all, of being a victim or hurt or whatever it is. I'm not a victim of the world I see. It's a line from the Course in Miracles that really is extraordinary. You exist as pure potential in this new moment. I'm not a victim of anything. There is no old ideology or dogma that can contain you or spirit. Often we greatly limit our faith to that which has already been accomplished or done in a certain way, an old way. And we see some results in our work, our prayer work, right? But nothing like what's really possible for you. Everything's possible for you as you learn to align yourself and understand who and what you are. When through intuition and guidance, once you're doing this, you're meditating on these big ideas like omniscience, omnipotence, omnipresence. As you do this, there's nothing, there's no limitation, no thing, no one that can prevent you from going forward. and achieving what people think of as miracles. Miracles, if you want to call them, are natural. And when you're not experiencing them, it's only because you haven't yet learned how to open yourself up to them. Every minister and every practitioner who's well-trained and New Thought student knows the next point. Principle is never bound by precedent. This life force is never bound by anything. Creative life, your life is not bound by what your parents said or what you were taught. It's only bound by you and your beliefs. Right now, you can be in a new moment full of every possible thing, every opportunity. Here's one that resonates with me, and with all our challenges going on right now at the center, which are many. It comes from Voltaire, and it's about faith. He said, faith consists in believing when it's beyond the power of reason to believe. I can close with an attempt at telling a joke, and with perhaps the summary with this joke. Man is walking next to a cliff when suddenly the earth gives way and he falls. He falls over the edge, yet he manages to grab hold of a branch growing out of the side of the cliff. And hanging hundreds of feet off the ground, he yells, "Source, please help me." Many, many times, "Source, please help me," until there is a thunderous voice overhead that asks, "Do you believe in me?" And yes, yes, I believe in you, the man replies. "Good. Do you trust me?" the voice asks. "Yes, I trust you." "Good. Then let go of the branch," the voice commands. And the man looks up and yells, "Someone else, help me." So the answer, of course, is, we got to have faith. And so it is. Thank you very much.